So here I was in the United States, and this guy's teaching me the strategy called covered calls, and I get back to Australia, and I pick up the phone, and I ring my broker because I had some shares. Not a lot, but I had some. And I said, mate, have you ever heard about this covered call thing? He goes, yeah, I know what covered calls are about. I said, mate, doesn't it sound good? It is the answer to life, the universe, and everything. Cash flow out of thin air. Like, how cool is that? Just cash out of thin air. He goes, yeah, but like, why would you want to do that? Now I'm questioning this guy's sanity. And I said, oh, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. Yeah, but he says, well, mate, you know, you're capping your upside. I said, yeah, but it's like cash. He said, yeah, dumb strategy, don't do it. Now back then, 20 years ago, I actually tended to listen to people like that. These days I don't. But I did, I listened to him. But I got so excited about this strategy that I knew it inside out. But because that person gave me bad advice or wrong advice, or advice that might be right for him but certainly wasn't right for me, I decided not to do it. A couple of years later, I was back in the United States again for another seminar, a bit of a seminar junkie back then, and turned up at this seminar, and this presenter was talking about the strategy, the covered call strategy, and he was doing such a bad job of it, and most people do, such a bad job of it, people in the audience just were not getting it. And I said, look, maybe I can chip in here, because I think I know this strategy okay. And so I was like answering questions and doing all of that sort of stuff. And at the end of it, he came up to me and said, pow, Peter Pow, which sounds like a really bad dog food, doesn't it, when you think about it. He goes, Peter Pow, you are great, man. You're the dude, man. How do you know this stuff? Are you like trading this? Are you like right in it? You must be like the dude. You must like, know everything about this strategy. I said, well, actually, no, I've never traded it. He said, what? Man, this is the greatest strategy ever. Man, it's like cash flow that just falls out of the sky. And after that seminar, I thought, how ridiculous did I waste 2 years of my cash flow generation life? Probably cost me $100,000. And 20 years ago, $100,000 was a lot of money to me. Heck, $100,000 is a lot of money to me today. And I came back to Australia, and as soon as I got back, I went out to a dinner party that night. And I met a broker, strangely at this dinner party. Interesting how this synchronicity occurs sometimes in life. This broker, her name was Lucy Chan. She's one of the biggest institutional brokers in Australia today. Back then she was still on the desk. And she said, I said, have you ever heard about this covered call strategy? She said, yeah, Peter, it's a pretty straightforward option strategy. We use it all the time. Our institutions use it all the time. Very familiar with it. I'd be very happy to look after you as your broker. And now, we were at a dinner at one of my very wealthy friends', big mansions. So she probably imagined that I was going to rock in, with millions of dollars in this strategy. And she said, so, Peter, how much do you have to invest? And I said, I've been like saving up and I've been like putting aside some money and I've got 50 grand. And she looked at me like I was a leper. Now, I later found out that 50 grand was usually the commission that she'd receive on the transactions that she was doing back then. But she'd already, in front of all of her friends, said that she'd take me on board. So I ended up with one of the best options dealers in Australia. Now, interesting, I started trading with a little share called Coca-Cola Amatil. Has anybody ever heard of it? Now, the reason why I traded Coca-Cola Amatil, because this guy in the seminar he was saying, Peter, do you have McDonald's there in Australia? Yes, we've got McDonald's, but we don't have the shares. Oh man, do you have General Motors there in Australia? Well, we've got Holden, but we don't have the shares there. What about Microsoft? Yeah, well, we get ripped off. I mean, we've got their operating systems in Australia, but not the options. And he said, man, what do you guys have there? Do you have Coke? Do you have Coca-Cola? I said, yeah, we've got Coca-Cola. So being, Americans like to please, so basically for the duration of the seminar, he used Coca-Cola as an example. So when I came back to Australia, the only share I pretty much knew was Coca-Cola. And so I bought this share, and it very nicely traded in a very nice little uptrend for the following 2 years. Made about $70,000 out of the strategy for the first 2 years. But I also want to check in and find out if you're anything like me, because back then there was a very specific reason why I actually wanted to find out how to make more cash flow. I actually had a property portfolio, and this property portfolio was negatively geared. And I basically had run out of my ability to service properties. And so I went looking for a cash flow strategy that was going to fund my investment properties. Now, it doesn't matter whether you've got investment properties or not, but who finds themselves a little bit short of cash each week and wouldn't mind a little bit more? Well, that's where I was. So you're in a very similar position to me tonight than I was 20 years ago. Now, interestingly, 20 years later, I virtually have no properties. And now I basically trade this almost exclusively.